It's said by many people who live out in the sticks, as they say, in the countryside, that countryside life is more relaxing. That's not the point for this discussion, though. But what I do notice when you're out in the country is that litter, waste and rubbish, it's more noticeable. You see it and you actually get depressed by it more. Not that I enjoy seeing rubbish, but I don't know, it perhaps didn't bother me as much when I was living back in London. Out here, when you see, I'm standing in a small wood surrounded by quite big trees. I think they're birch or oak, and to the left of me there are the pine Christmassy trees. Funny enough, my neighbour used to have a couple, but again, that's not about discussion here. What is up for discussion is littering, and out in the countryside I feel we have more of an obligation to look after the animals and wildlife around us and the environment around us. Littering is so distasteful, and it is something that really does tick me off. I'm just going to walk around this little path that I'm in the wood, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I've seen. Okay, so 2 feet around, I can see a Coca-Cola can. This obviously hasn't got any Coke in it, because that would be a bit stupid if some people just threw out cans and bottles that had stuff in it. Which quite often is what they do round here. So there are there's nappies, dog poo bags, which interestingly is another thing that ticks me off. On the subject of that, people who do have dogs and are responsible, I haven't got any issues with you. It's people who, are the opposite, completely irresponsible and allow their dogs to put their mess about and don't bother picking it up. Now, I can accept on certain occasions if it's wet or very cold you might not want to, but unless you're elderly or young or you've got a various health problem, you really should be picking it up, because it really it's not nice to look at, and it's especially not nice to look at when you've trodden in it like I have a couple of times. And the amount of times I have, even when I was living in London, I used to walk into it, not by choice, mind, and you're there for hours trying to get it off, and that's another thing that depresses me, but that's not the point of this. The point of this is littering, and it is something that it really does annoy me. Should there be more bins about? I know, particularly in London after the 7/7 attacks, and possibly other major cities in the UK, that don't appear to be as many bins about, public bins about. And when you're living in the countryside, there aren't that many about, to be honest. Should there be bins put up that are obviously managed, and so the rubbish is disposed of weekly in woods and etc., because there does appear to be a lot of it. I know that the wind in the countryside can pick rubbish up and dispose it, and of course there will always, wherever you are in the world, wherever you're thoughtful about it, there is always going to be rubbish about, sadly, and that's not good for the environment. But out in the countryside, we really do have an obligation to look after the environment. And the amount of times I just see, it's irresponsible. The amount of times I just see bits of rubbish loose about, or people knowing full well that nobody's going to pick it up. There aren't people, well, there should be people walking around in these woods picking up the rubbish, but there doesn't appear to be, so they haven't really got any issues with themselves putting it down and not giving a crap about who sees it. It goes on to people with fly tip. That for me it's the same. You shouldn't be doing it. There is a tip about, use your local tip, put your rubbish in, don't do it. I mean, worst of all, if you get caught doing it, you're going to get fined or a slap on the wrist, depending on what happens. But I don't know, it's something that when I'm on my countryside walks, listen to my various music that I have on my MP3 player, and you just see it and you just get really depressed, and you just think, why can't we all just not put litter on the floor? Why can't we all just be a bit more responsible and just think about society and the wildlife that surrounds us? Wildlife isn't asking for beer bottles, crisp packets, and God knows else what I can see around me in this wood isn't asking for it to be put down. sort of Mother Nature intended a wood to have. You know, that is one of the problems of society. Don't know whether it's kids getting lazier, perhaps adults getting lazier, but there doesn't seem to be, at least on face value, enough people who, you know, that are that bothered about it. Obviously, I'm in the wood which I'm walking in. It will be made into a new housing estate, and I know some people are a bit unhappy about that because obviously the wildlife here, you know, it's going to be reduced. And obviously there are parts of that where, you know, if it's a various builder development have bought it, they are just going to leave it, and they're maybe not going to be that fussed about, you know, cleaning up the area. But it's something that you're out on your walks and you see all this litter and you think, is that it? Is this what we've come to? A generation who just like chucking things away, and you see people just walking past it and you're thinking, it's not my problem, why should I pick it up? And I don't know, these bystanders, they annoy me. So every now and again I actually will go and pick up the rubbish. Gloves, you know, and I've got a carry bag with me that I sometimes do use again. And because I'm like that with carry bags, you know, you've got one, unless it's damaged or it's got various liquid and crap in it, use it again. And that's what I like. So a lot of the supermarkets nowadays, they actually, they kind of force you to keep a hold of your carry bags and reuse them. And if your carry bag's got a problem, the ones that you're reusing, you get a new one, which is actually quite good. That's another point to discuss later in the day. But I don't know. I just think, you know, should there be more? There should be more bins about. Obviously, then you will get in any form of society. There are troublesome people, and people just don't genuinely give a toss, and they'll probably go and try and knock them down, and you know, once they've knocked the bin down, empty the contents of the bin, which will leave so and so, whoever from the council or from the environmental waste or recycling societies or groups to well, agencies, whatever, rounding about because it's cold, and then that will be another person's job to do. So I don't know, but just wherever you are in the world, whatever part of, whether you're in a town or a city or whatever, countryside, just actually have a look around you and say, does that really need to be there? And quite often of the time with rubbish, of course it doesn't need to be there. So if we can all actually pick up, obviously don't endanger yourself. If there's a bit of rubbish hanging about in a tree branch 15 foot up in the air, don't go and get it. I'm not advising you to break your legs and back, but there's a bit on the rubbish, even a little, you know, bit of foil or sweet wrapper, pick it up, because things like that, they all do add up. Birds will put it in their mouth and they choke, and then whatever, and so and so, and I don't know, it does depress me. There was actually someone on Radio 4, Gardening Question Time, speaking about this same topic the other day. I can't think of who the woman's name was, but we should have an obligation to pick up, you know, various bits of rubbish on the floor. I know there are quite a few charities about it that actually are involved with this, and you know, I applaud them, but there's only so much they can do. If a mood isn't in the national public's conscious, then wherever charity or wherever, how many voices there are, if it's not part of the conscious of the, you know, in the mind of the public, very little will be done. And then what happens is a big discussion about littering, and I don't know. Anyway, I seem to be rambling on at the end of this. But the whole point of these little 10-minute discussion pieces are, you know, for me to kind of open up and discuss things that, I don't know, just are on my mind. And as I'm looking here in this small wood, looking at a small robin there that's, well, perched on the branch of what appears to be a birch tree. Again, I'm not an expert on trees. You know, it does make you feel that there's some good left in this world after all, and that is an encouraging sign going forward. As I said, these will be weekly or fortnightly. The discussions really aren't planned. Just whatever on my mind when I'm walking around in my local countryside, and you know, let's see where they go on. So if you've got any views, leave comments, whatever, get in touch with us. do what you want, you know, you don't have to. But let's see where these develop, and you know, hopefully we can all do our bit to protect the environment, pick up rubbish, and hopefully make people like me who look at litter and think the worst, and you know that obviously it will endanger animals, this and that, because it's not nice to look at litter, is it? It's not. You know, we should be proud of our countryside and landscapes and cities, so the cleaner the streets and countryside are, the better it is for all of us, isn't it? Alright, have a nice day, people. Oh, the picture that's there on the display, I know this is actually going over 10 minutes, but that picture on the display, it's the fence on the edge of my wood overlooking an old army field. That's, well, I can't actually tell you what it's used for, but there is some farming going on there, and there are some various bottles and stuff, and that actually, I was walking past this the other day, that's why I got this idea for this little audio piece, because I saw it and I thought, how could people do that? So, what I'm going to do after this, I'm actually going to pick and collect some of those bottles and put it in a bin, knowing that I, for once, have done something good in this world that we live in. Over and out. Goodbye.